Hello and welcome to another special edition of the Blues Focus podcast in conversation with, I'm your host, Kieran, for this episode. Joining me, I've got Callum, and we're also joined by Marlon King, former Blues striker. Marlon, thank you again for joining us on this episode. We'll get straight into it for you, really. You joined in 2011, but debut was delayed until early September. I believe you picked up a ligament injury in pre-season training, is that correct?
Yeah, it was funny actually. It's quite a funny story because I think me and Chris Burke, and can't remember, it was Alex McLeish signed three of us, and we never actually got to meet because by the time we got to sign, he was off to Villa. So it was quite strange, and we came into a club that was managerless, and obviously the gaffer going over to the rivals, wasn't the best of starts. But no, Chris Hughton came in, got pre-season underway, and then I picked up a little niggle in pre-season, so it took me a little while to get going. But I found my feet after a while.
How did that feel? Obviously, having to wait for your debut, but you was itching to get out there, wasn't you, in the end?
Yeah, no, 100%. I was buzzing because. As I said, it was strange because I had obviously Alex McLeish, who was the gaffer at the time. He was, he was ringing me over the course of the off season, and he said, "No, he really wants me down there." And then I signed, done my medical, and then I never actually got a chance to work under him. So just one of those things. But no, once I did, settled in straight away, and I got on with the fans and just took to the place straight away,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously you had a brilliant first season for us under Chris Hughton when you finally got going. But I think Cal wanted to touch on with you about obviously the Europa League journey that we went on, Cal.
Yeah, well, obviously winning the Carling Cup the previous season obviously got us the Europa League, and just talk us through the whole journey. What was it like playing in Europe?
I think, Cal, to be honest with you, pal, I think that's what got me to come to Blues, because at that time I was a free agent, and with Coventry they offered me a contract, and there was a couple other clubs that came in, but I knew Birmingham, the Blues had been relegated, but I knew Europe. I've never played in Europe, so I knew that was an opportunity for me to come in and experience something different. So that was really an attraction for me. But, like the first game at home, it was absolutely rocking. And I think, was it Maribor? Was it at home?
In the group, I think.
Yeah, full house. It was absolutely rocking. And, when young Nath got his goal, and, just the scoring in Europe, and see the Blue fans excited about everything that went on, because it was an up and down season for the Blues. It was like you won the Carling Cup and then you got relegated. So it was kind of like a bittersweet moment. But then I think Europe kind of was like a buffer system to kind of get the fans excited again. So it was a good time to come in, and it was new players and a new gaffer and new ideas, and it was quite exciting.
Was it quite strange in a way, obviously juggling a Europa League journey, if you will, alongside playing in the Championship, which is obviously so full on compared to other leagues as well. The games come thick and fast there. Was it quite difficult, did you find, to kind of manage yourself, your fitness, your energy levels during the run in the Europa League as well?
Kieran, to be honest, mate, it was a crazy season, because if you ask any of the lads, we were literally playing 3 times a week. It was, it was full on. As you said, it was Saturday, Tuesday night, then we'll travel maybe on the Wednesday, game on the Thursday and a Friday in Europa when that came up. So it was, I think that we played 60 odd games that season. And I've never done it in my career. And I know a few of the boys were like, this is just crazy. But because of the journey we were on, we just had the momentum, because it was like we were doing well in Europa. but we was falling back a little bit in the league because I think there was a delay when we had the league games. So we had to catch up. So we saw the results happening, and it was like, bloody hell, we got to get a win just to keep pace with everybody else. And then we went on a magnificent run, and obviously to finish like in the playoffs was a great achievement. I mean, we would have liked to have finished getting promoted. That would have topped it off, but to play 60 odd games in a season was something else. And I'm sure for you fans as well, like, traveling up and down the place. But it was great, you know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously every Blues fan was, as soon as we won the Cup, was looking forward to Europe. Obviously was anticipating it being alongside being a Premier League club, but look, you got to take it as it comes, haven't you? But just tell me a little bit what it was like working under Chris Hughton. Obviously, like you say, you signed under McLeish, but never actually worked with him. But what was Chris like to work alongside under? Was he fair with the squad, or?
Yeah, I mean, Chris Hughton, I mean, look, if you look at his reputation and his kind of background in the game, every team that he's come into, whether it be struggling, doing all right, he's managed to either sustain them into a decent position or kick them on. So he's got a great, you know, it's quite surprising to see him. I know he's got the Forest job now, and that might be down to his own choice. But when I came in, you know, he was like, I know you're Alex McLeish's signings, but I want you here. You're part of the squad, and I just want to kick on. But his attention to detail was just, you know, it was magnificent. You know, training with Paul Trollope and the rest of his backroom staff. And his man management. So if he left you out the team, he would pull you aside before. You know, you get certain gaffers that will tell you whether you're dropped, or some gaffers that you just get to a Saturday and then they put up the team sheet and you're not in the squad or you're not in the team, which is quite, you know, it's daunting for a player. But with Chrissy, he would explain his reasons and he would say, this is how this team is set up. So we're going to go with this formation. And I feel like, say, for example, Ziggy is better suited to you, and then I want you to come on the last 20 minutes. So we give you a reason to why he's left you out the team. So it was easier to adjust to his method of thinking, and everybody kind of bought in to his philosophy and his way of thinking, because he was not just a good manager, he was a good man manager as well.
Yeah, because he's, of course, still the most successful season we've had since coming back down. So, yeah, like I say, obviously everyone pined for him at the start of this season, but I think we've landed on our feet a bit with Karanka as well.
Yeah, I mean, Kieran, look. Sorry, who's that?
No, go on.
No, go on, mate. You shoot. Go on. You ask me questions. I'll answer them.
I was just gonna say, I was looking at your Instagram the other day, obviously looking ahead to the interview, and I saw you posted a video of your of the goals you scored against Middlesbrough at home in that season. Obviously, touching on the previous question where you said your relationship with the fans. Obviously, the way you celebrated, you get, you know, any goal you score, it will get the fans going. Any player scoring a goal, but you know the way you're celebrating and the goals you scored, and then obviously going into the Europa League games, just with the electric atmosphere. What was it like scoring those goals in those sort of clutch games?
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, this sounds a bit weird, but I remember playing for Coventry against Birmingham at St Andrews, and I remember obviously it being a local. It was at that time it was Premiership team versus Championship team, but you guys still were filling at St Andrews, and I just remember going to the stadium, the way, you know, St Andrews hugged you, and the fans, they really got behind their team. And I think that's why you guys kind of won that game, because any other team would have crumbled. But the fans at St Andrews, and I don't know if it's a Midland thing or whatever, but the fans are really passionate about getting behind their teams. And I don't know. I kicked it off with the Coventry supporters and the Birmingham supporters, and people ask me like my favourite teams, and bar Watford, I always say Cov and Birmingham for my rapport with the fans. I always got on with the fans because they appreciate people putting in a shift and, you know, just going, you know, like my ex-teammate Juki, who's down there now. I know the fans really, really enjoy him because he just puts in a shift and he comes off bloody and sweating, and that's what the fans want to see. So I know what kind of relationship the supporters want with their players.
Yeah, and obviously that first season ended up, as you say, the playoffs. Obviously wasn't to be that year, but what was the feeling like after the playoff defeat? What did Chris say to the lads? Did he obviously try to pick the spirits up, I suppose, didn't he really? But what was the mood like in the dressing room after that defeat?
It was a season of, like, how can I explain it? We was like the nearly season, because if you look at Europa, I think, what was it? Goal difference that kept us out from going into the final stages.
Yeah, I think it was.
And then you get, it was. And do you know what? I think it was total exhaustion. To be honest, we you ask anybody about playing in a championship, it's very, very challenging, and to get in playoffs itself is something that's quite challenging. But then to have the Europa games and then to travel, it takes quite a toll on not just the players, but the fans and the club. And I just think it was a great journey. I mean, even though we didn't get promoted, it was a season that I wouldn't forget, because it was like nobody expected us to do anything in Europe. And then I think with all the players that kind of departed once Birmingham got relegated, and the uncertainty of who the gaffer was going to be, and everybody was focused on Alex McLeish going Aston Villa. I think it was a season of joy and excitement. I don't know. You can tell me as a supporter more than being a player, but I felt it was a crazy exciting season.
I mean, obviously for us as fans, obviously what we ultimately wanted was obviously, you always want to look up, don't you, as finished side as possible. Playoffs is nerve shredding at the best of times. Obviously, my problem is my other half and her family, they live in Blackpool, so I got a fair ribbing after that one.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, Ian Holloway is very shrewd in terms of, I think any team that would have went through the season that we as a club went through, it would have been an icing on the cake to get promoted. But to play 60 odd games, we got to a point where it was like, and to manage the squad we had, because if you look at it, we had a blend of young and old. You had Kari, who was captain, had to manage his injuries. Obviously, I was one of the older guys. You had Murph, who was out injured. We had, if you look at what happened during that season, obviously Jack, he was kind of unknown. So he come in, done well. Everybody filled in, and then to get where we did, I think, to be honest, we exceeded what was expected at the beginning of the season, even though we wanted to top it off by winning, or at least get into Cardiff or Wembley in the playoff finals. I think that would have topped it off. But I don't look back at that season with any regrets, really.
That's the main thing, isn't it, I suppose? Obviously you can look back and as players be proud of what we achieved that season.
Well, one thing I want to touch on is one player obviously you played with during that season, and obviously Champs Nation now, he's made himself into quite an established Premier League player. Obviously scored today against Villa. Nathan Redmond, just sort of tell me about playing alongside him and what his progression was like through that season.
Well, Redders was always, I mean, he's Birmingham through and through. He's got a great family behind him. And you could see as a youngster, he was always going to go on to exceed playing in the Championship. He's a level-headed kid. I speak to him up to this day. And, you just look at players like himself, and you're proud of his journey, man. I mean, especially the players that Birmingham have produced as youngsters. You've got to sometimes put yourself in a business mindset, because at times you do get young players that not exceed the club in terms of who they are, but their worth. And if the club is financially in a predicament, something's got to be sacrificed or compromised. And we'd love these young players to stay at Birmingham and take them to the heights of the Man Cities and the Man Uniteds. But in the real world, Birmingham will always be that kind of selling clubs to the bigger kind of clubs that come along that can afford them. And, you know, to see him sustain himself, to go to Norwich and then kick on again to Southampton, and it's a pleasure to see, you know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you say, in terms of being financially hamstrung, so to speak, obviously the following season under Lee Clark, obviously there was a tightening of purse string, so to speak. After that, what was that like that season under Lee? Was it obviously a different vibe around the club? Did you pick up that negativity behind the scenes as such, or?
Yeah, to be totally honest, I mean, as a player, you get to see majority of stuff, and I knew. Well, me and Ziggy were told basically they needed to get us off the wage bill. So in the midst of that, you still want to give it 110%, but you still in the back of your head, you want to kind of plan back end. I mean, me and Ziggy were like mid-30s, so I mean, he was on a lot of wages, you know, I was on, you know, decent wages for the club, and we knew that they were going into a different era. And obviously it brought in Lee Clark, who was kind of, he knew that he had to kind of bring in the youngsters that were on lower wages and who he could give an opportunity. So we kind of knew that going into the season. But it was strange for me because I was kind of told, I don't know if a lot of people know this, I was told that if I found a club, I could kind of leave on a free. So once I was told that, obviously I was scoring goals at the time. We got to January and then Wolves came in, and we kind of agreed terms, and then the club demanded a fee for me. But yeah, I was told I could leave on a free to get them off the wage bill. So that and then I had Shanghai Shanzi come in for me, and it didn't work out. And then I got to the end of the season and I kind of saw it out, and then we kind of parted ways. But that's how football works. I'm not too sure what happened with Ziggy, but that's football. You know, it's with the ownership, I think there was a lot going on with the owner being locked up abroad, and political stuff that was going on. So there was a lot going on with the club at the time. And then obviously people like Nath go in and Jack Butland go, and you saw the direction. So the club were on a rebuilding process, and that happens to every football club, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, with that rebuild, obviously Lee Clark again. You had a season under him. How did he differ to Chris Hughton in his methodology, the way he worked around the club? Obviously, every manager's different, aren't they? But what was he like to work under? Obviously, two contrasting seasons in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think for Clarkey, he knew what his situation was coming in. There wasn't going to be massive funds available, and he knew he had to rebuild. He had to get the youngsters going, and then he had to kind of wind down on the other players that were there, kind of hindering the wage bill. So it wasn't like he was horrible to any of us. It was just he was weaning us out the team. And I think what he was doing was getting the fans kind of adjusted to not seeing us. So if you saw towards the end of the season, I weren't involved and Ziggy weren't involved, I think what he wanted to do was get the supporters on his side by trying to get a team that he could work with, so it was totally different. You had Chrissy coming in. We just got relegated. We want to go for it again. We're keeping the majority of players. We're going to add a few, get some frees. You have Berkey, you have myself, and with the rest of the players, Kari, Murphy, you had a few players to try and kick on. Lee Clark knew that it was like stabilising the club, seeing what was happening in the background, and then we'll go from there. So it was two different contrasts.
One thing I found with the moving from obviously playing pretty much every game under Chris Hughton to the Lee Clark era, when that obviously came to end, was there any bad feelings with the contract termination? Or obviously it sounds like you look upon your time at Blues with fond memories.
No, 100%. I've always had a good relationship with the Blues, and it wasn't. I understand. I was coming to the tail end of my career, so I understood, and I got the kind of the perspective of the direction that the club had to go, and they were in a financial situation, and we had to find a conclusion to how we could move forward. So while we was doing that, I was coming in, I was training, whether it would be with the youngsters or the reserves, and I knew my time had come up, was up, and no, as I said, I'd come back down to the Blues when I come back to the UK, watch the games. Those are one of the teams that I always had a great relationship with the supporters, and I believe that when I did get the opportunity, I tried my best with them, and they gave me all their backing. So it was never a bitter kind of party. It was always, a respectful departure, to be honest.
Yeah, and obviously, like you say, played for 12 clubs in your career, I think it was, off the top of my head, and also obviously represented Jamaica on 24 occasions. Would you say playing for the national team is obviously the highlight of your career, as such the proudest moment, was finally representing?
It's one of them. It's one of them, Kieran, to be honest. I mean, I had a chance to play for Republic of Ireland that didn't pan out to the way I thought, but my father and majority of my family members are from Jamaica, and I think to represent, a country that you have in your bloodline is always a proud moment. So, yeah, it's definitely one of my highlights, to play in the World Cup qualifiers, to travel all over the world and play against different players and see different cultures. It's always something else to your journey,
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say your proudest moment was in terms of your club career? I mean, obviously, you played in Europe with the Blues. Obviously, I'd imagine that's up there. What else would you say you achieved during your playing career would be?
I think one of them as well is getting promoted with Watford to the Prem. When we was writ off, I think we was relegation favourites, and to beat Leeds in the playoff final, well, to beat Palace 3-0, and then to go and beat Leeds in the playoff finals was up there as well, because at that time they were another team that just came down from the Premiership, and it was a lot of players departed. It was that doom and gloom, and then Aidy Boothroyd came in, and he was an unknown quantity, brought in a lot of players that the fans weren't too sure about. So it was like that building process, and I felt the same thing at Birmingham. There was so many games. It was just like, it was crazy. I'm telling you, that season at Birmingham, I've never, even in Sunday football, even when I was a kid, I've never played so many games in a season. It was like, and at that age, when you're like 30 plus, you've really got to manage yourself, and it's, traveling all over the place. And it was just a great experience. But yeah, I would say Watford as well, getting promoted.
When you look at the teams you played for, obviously Jamaica, Watford, Blues, whoever, who would you say, from Blues and then whoever else, who are the sort of best players you've played alongside?
It's been quite a few, to be honest. It's been quite a few. I would say, when you say Watford, I would say Ashley Young, very good mate of mine. Obviously, he's at Inter Milan now. We speak regularly, and he's gone on to, ex-Man United captain and play for England and stuff. I think as a striker, you appreciate players like that you just have like a telepathic kind of sync with, where he knows what run you're going to make, and you go on in a season. Just like Berkey at Birmingham. If you look at his goals and his assists, it was similar to Youngie. Not only could they assist, but they could score magnificent goals, and they were both wingers, very, very quality. Different players, but for me, those are the sort of players I like. I like players that can rescue a team, but also be unselfish as well. So, yeah, I'll say Ashley Young. There's so many. If I go through the list, I might leave someone out and I might upset them. So there's been quite a few.
I mean, Ashley Young, when he was at Watford, he'd have been just a young lad breakthrough, similar to Redmond when you played alongside him as well. So
yeah,
both gone on to achieve great things. Unfortunately, Youngie played for them lot down the road for a time though, didn't he? So, I won't speak too much about him. We won't praise him too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
For your playing time, do you have a favourite goal, one that really stands out in your memory when you look back that you scored?
Yeah. For different reasons, I would say there's different moments, but I'd say one that stands out is probably Palace at Selhurst Park. I mean, Palace is one of the most horrendous grounds to go to as an away player, and we was getting battered. We got it through to half time, and then I scored. This was in the playoff semi-final, and then I scored, and then Youngie scored, and Springy scored. And then I would say another place I really enjoy, another game I would say, Kieran, that stands out for me and Cal, is I'd say probably the 2 times at the Den for Birmingham. I mean, no, I say that because they released me as a youngster, and obviously I'm a Peckham boy, so Birmingham, they're my local team. And then obviously I went for trials, and even though I'd done well, they already kind of selected the guys that they wanted to take on. So I don't think there's a career game against Millwall that I haven't scored. But the Birmingham games, the 6-0, and then I think what topped it off was the 3-0 down in the pink kit to score a hat-trick. And because of the abuse that we were getting, well, especially me, I was getting in a pink kit at the Den, and then to pop up and score a hat-trick, that's, and then just see the Birmingham fans, because I know Birmingham, Leeds, Millwall, there's always that kind of intense rivalry. And every time we've gone there with the Blues, we've always tortured them, to be fair, on and off the field. So I'd say for games, for the Blues, they're one of my stand-up moments.
Was you involved in the side that went to obviously you're talking about Leeds, went and scored when Zigic scored 4 in the game as well? Was you in the side for that? I'm sure it was that season under Hughton, wasn't it? If I remember rightly.
No, I was injured.
Is that when you was right at the start of the season? Yeah.
Yeah, I played the game where we beat them 1-0. I think that was when we was pushing for playoffs, and I think Leroy Lita popped up with a goal. Actually a good goal. But I remember watching the game, the results on the feed coming through, and Ziggy was just on absolutely fire in that game, because I had the ligament injury, and to score 4 goals for the Blues, that's why I always sing his name.
What was it?
Go back,
go on, Cal.
when you go back What's probably the toughest moment during your playing career? Well, whatever club you were at the time. What's probably the toughest moment you've had to face? Whether it was Watford, Blues, Coventry, wherever. What was the toughest moment?
I think, Cal, to be honest, and I remember this, it was playing at the Emirates. We just got promoted with Watford. Obviously, Arsenal's my team that I support as a kid. And me and Cola Torre had a race out, and money just going. And I got through the game. I don't know how, because it was like the first 30 minutes. And then I got into the change room. My knee was like a massive balloon. Didn't really say much. And then after, when I saw the surgeon and I had the X-ray, they said that I might not play again. So that was really, really tough. And I was out for the whole season. So it was the first time I played in the Premiership, and it was like the fourth or fifth game in, and I've been scoring. And I was told that, I might not play football again. So that was one of the toughest moments. And then, I would say that against the team that I support as well. So I had all my family there as Arsenal fans and stuff. And then for that to happen, it was quite horrendous.
I suppose, obviously, like I say, obviously us as fans, we don't experience what goes on behind the scenes in terms of, obviously. I mean, obviously you see a bit more now with documentaries out about Spurs and City and what have you, but we don't see that side of it. When players get sat down and you have to have surgery, the impact it has on you guys behind the scenes. Obviously, it just frustrates us that you can't be in the lineup every week. So it's a completely different thing for us.
100%. I mean, look, I still follow you guys to this day. I mean, the Championship is the hardest league, bar none, to get out of, because it's kind of, especially when you're a team with a great fan base, the expectation is high. But then a lot of players, especially if you get relegated from the Premiership, is a high velocity of games, and you get players that are used to the luxury of the Premier League or the higher league. They don't want to play in the Championship, so then you're weakened because they want to go, and then the club are on a budget, and then every team that plays you is like playing a cup final because you just come down from the Premiership, so they want to prove a point, and then you've got this. It's like Saturday, Tuesday, and then with the fans as well, you've got to get in that mindset. Okay, we've got to go from the Premier League grounds into, no disrespect, maybe playing Doncaster away on a Tuesday night, or Scunthorpe if they was to get promoted to the Championship. You have to adjust really fast, and everything changes. So the Championship, but the prize at the end is the biggest prize in football. That's why I would probably say that. It is financially. If you go up through the playoffs, I'm not sure. I think it's 100+ million, but that is probably the toughest league to get out of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, looking back over your career now, obviously everything you achieved, Premier League football, international level and what have you, do you have any regrets of your time whilst you played at all? Anything that you think you wish you'd done differently, or?
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't have regrets. I mean, you grow as a person. You kind of learn from any sort of mistakes that you make, and you kind of take that on and look back at it and assess it, and then try and utilize it moving forward. But I always say it's never a loss, always a lesson, and everything that you go through is all part and parcel of your journey. If you live with regrets, you can actually beat yourself up inside. So for me, I never started football expecting to play in the Premier League. I just wanted to be a professional footballer. So whether it was third division or playing in the Premier League, my initial expectations coming from a rough housing estate and a broken home, it was just to be a professional football player. So I'd like to think I've exceeded with whatever I've gone through to where I thought I could actually get to. And, it's just made me grow as a person. To this day, it's whatever I've gone through, it's stages that you build on in life,
Yeah.
Obviously, where you are now, retiring from football, what are you doing these days? Just to give the fans a bit of an overview, what are you doing these days?
Yeah, Cal, I've got my own construction company. I supply like heavy machinery to like bulldozers, excavators. I've got property all over the place. I was always one to invest my money wisely, regardless of whether I was having good times or bad times. I always knew that football had an expiry date, so I knew that it wasn't going to last forever. So I had to kind of expand myself mentally outside of the game while I was in the game. So when it ended, I was already prepared. So now I live abroad, live in the sunshine. I live in Zambia, and I'm enjoying life, watching my kids grow, and just giving other people opportunities and speaking to people like yourselves and other youngsters to give them an input on where I've been, whether they take it or they don't take it, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent, and try and change the next generation. So, yeah, that's my. I mean, look, this whole Instagram and Zoom, it's all new to me. I'm not a media guy. It's my kids that will say, "No, Dad, you got to get on. You got to get on this whole Instagram thing." So I'm only a few months in, so I'm slowly getting there. But it's a great tool, great platform for people like yourself to put your story out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, obviously, we really appreciate you taking the time to sit and speak to us today. Obviously, just finally, before we let you go, obviously, we do want to get your thoughts on, obviously, the Blues so far this season, obviously, where you think Karanka can take us this season. You've obviously been keeping tabs. What are your thoughts so far?
What my thoughts so far in terms of this is a normal season in terms of the championship, because you will get teams that will run away, will look like they're running away with the league, and then get to Christmas, New Year. So with the gaffer you got now, he's got the experience of knowing how that league works. And then certain players you've got like Gardner, you've got Juki, they know the league. It all depends on where the Blues are at come January. I mean, the table can twist so you'd be crazy. You've seen it before, Kieran and Cal, where teams are. I think even the Blues that season, we were in the bottom half, and I don't think until January we kicked on and we finished fourth. So, enjoy it. I can't say don't put too much pressure on the players, because I know at Blues the expectation's high, and especially seeing your neighbours doing what they're doing. Their kind of season's blowing up at the moment, so I always knew that bubble was going to burst. But it's all about the chemistry, the right gaffer, the mixture of the blend of the players, getting the supporters back in the ground. I mean, with COVID happening as well, it's sometimes that that full house of having the supporters is like the 12th man. So it must be weird for the players, the transition that they're going through now with the restrictions. It's a crazy time for everybody, but I just hope Blues can kick on. It was a great result of the weekend. I think it was a draw before that, wasn't it? Was it 2 draws?
We wouldn't beat Preston and Huddersfield. I can't remember what was the result before Huddersfield.
Well, we'd lost.
It's been a couple of defeats, hadn't it? I think.
Yeah, we'd lost to Sheffield Wednesday and Norwich.
Okay, well, you see, those are teams that have got spending capacity at the moment. So it's one of those ones, Kieran. It's get to January, and then we'll just see where where you can go. It's difficult because you guys are supporters. I'm a player. I'm now looking from the outside in. So it's like I understand what's actually going on behind the scenes, what the players are thinking. I'm sure Hogan, those players want to hit the ground running for whatever reason he hasn't. But it doesn't make him a bad player overnight. I'm sure, you know, if he gets one that comes off his shin, I mean, I've not watched the games. You guys can tell me different, but his season can just change based on a bit of luck. So just be patient, and I want to see the Blues back in the Prem because I believe that's where we should be, you know.
Definitely. Oh, let's see what happens. I suppose I'll take every game as it comes.
Yeah,
we've spent enough years in the Championship now. I don't get ahead of myself anymore.
Yeah, 100%. I think. Look, if the club's stabilised, I think the board is the most important thing, just to stabilise the club, and then you go from there. I mean, if you look at Sheffield United, how long were they up, down? You know, even Leeds. You know, it's a process, and it takes some backing, the right manager to come in.